Grammys and their babies.
Also, is the baby daddy. Or are they bastards? Snow. Grammy Snow.
Oh my goodness. In the previous episode, we talked about the chances of Wizkid getting these Grammys. And I mean, the performance looked a bit sure, kind of, but the album was not so sure for us. What was your reaction after this loss?
I was talking to a woman when I took a break because I felt I felt I knew what was going to happen. Because I just got a call randomly from a friend who said, "Bro, when I do Wizkid strong thing, I dropped the call immediately, and I went back to streaming the Grammys on YouTube." Was I surprised? No. Even though I thought maybe it was Nigerian sentiment to me that made me think that, because obviously I'm Nigerian, I want my Nigerian competitor to win the Grammy because it's good. Even if it's an African, I would still want the African to win. But this one, I was shocked. You know, there are sometimes when you are shocked, but you are not surprised. You know when Lil Wayne rapped, preparing for the worst, but still praying for the best. Yeah, it was sort of a situation like that. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised at all. I was not surprised. But I was disappointed, yes. I was disappointed at least that it didn't win the performance category at least. I knew it wasn't going to win the album. Like we said it on the last episode, I knew. But the performance, at least the performance, come on. Thought it was going to win that. But even though it didn't win it, I'm still not surprised. Still not.
Why do you think he lost?
Which of the categories?
I mean, he lost both.
He lost both. Let's go with the album first. Okay. Let's go with the performance first.
Okay.
So a lot of people have been arguing that, well, it was the most successful song in the category. Yes, it was the most successful song in the category. But if you look at the definition of that of a lot of the categories at the Grammys, you will see honors, artistic, something, without regard to something along the lines of without regard to chart success or commercial success.
Yeah,
it's there. So a lot of the time, these guys look at musical excellence. And what is musical excellence to these guys might not exactly be musical excellence to the rest of the world. We are going to explain that a little later. But the thing about this is, a lot of people don't realize that the babe that Wizkid lost to was nominated for Best New Artist. She was nominated for Best New Artist. I mean, usually it might not be as much of a factor, but it means that the person has a bit of an edge over, like, for example, we thought Mid Lagos could have been nominated for Album of the Year. We thought so. But if someone was nominated to the Big Four and then was nominated in the Best Global Music category, it's very possible sometimes. Like last year, you saw them, Dua Lipa and Taylor Swift get nominated in Album of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Album. Taylor Swift won Album of the Year, Dua Lipa won Best Pop Vocal. Like when I was younger, that shit used to make me mad. Because I would never understand why you were nominated for something, you should automatically be winning your category. Right? We also saw it this year. Kanye West was nominated for Album of the Year. He didn't win the rap category. Tyler, the Creator, won that. So now what you need to understand is, sometimes you might be good enough. There are different factors that affect Album of the Year. But then when it comes to like genres, you might make a better pop album or a better rap album. Does that make sense? So sometimes with Aruj after nominated as for Best New Artist, it might not matter. But when push comes to shove and when you're an African artist who made a pop album that was nominated in that category, it might matter. That's the first thing. Now, about the music, let's take the two categories first things first. Why do people what does the Academy look at when people are winning Grammys? After I lost, a lot of people asked me a question, I answered one person. I said it's favoritism, familiarity, and perception bias. What is the perception bias that I'm talking about? The Grammys in the last 17 years, let's say between 2015 and 2020, the Grammys tilted significantly towards commercial success, like significantly. That's why you see the rap album of the year categories, people that are winning it were the most successful albums, kind of, when you look at it critically. Even though some of those albums were, critics destroyed some of those albums. Recovery, for example, by Eminem, he was destroyed. I remember reading the article on Pitchfork and I almost crying. but one rap album was there because of commercial success. But over the past 2 years, you will see that there's been a slight change in the attitude. They are now looking at commercial success as subordinate to cultural impact, as subordinate to rudimentary musicality. What is rudimentary musicality in the eyes of members of the Grammy? Now, last year I did a thread. Someone asked me a question on Twitter last year about why I've always said Twice As Tall was going to be more of a favorite over Made in Lagos. Like I was saying that Made in Lagos is not going to win a Grammy. You can check the thread on Twitter, it's there. So I told the person that, look, the way critics and musicologists judge music is different from the way members of the populace judge music. For example, if I'm going to criticize an album, there are some albums that I'm not going to judge on lyricism, themes, and topics, and articulation and delivery. But there are some albums that I'm going to judge on that, right? But a Made in Lagos, for example, is very tough not to judge from that perspective. Now look at it this way. Musicologists are going to look at the overall quality of the music. And then they tend to tilt towards music that have the idea of eclectic arrangements, fantastic production. You can hear all the clashing cymbals, all these other things. So an alternative record or a Femi Kuti's album with that expansive range of sonics, of everything, of the sound, look, it's so broad, it can elevate you, right? They are going to tilt towards that more than a random pop album. Do you understand? They are going to tilt towards those genres more than they tilt towards pop music. It's the idea of rudimentary musicality. It's just like how a lot of people, like if you understand music, for example, if you listen to chamber music, if you listen to Hans Zimmer's score on maybe Last of the Samurai, right? The last one, maybe a small measure of pain. You are going to think it's higher musicality, sentimentally, higher musicality than a pop record, right? But the problem with that is people tend to not be able to understand that there can be rudimentary musicality in pop music, as it is in those types of other music that have the expansive sonic technique, eclectic sounds, broad orchestral music, all that stuff. There can be, if you judge them on what they both set out to achieve and how they achieve them. But guess what? A lot of people in the academy don't think like that. They judge music like critics and musicologists. So when a lot of them look at Angelique Kidjo's album, talks about a record on there is Mycelium, a record on there is like Do Yourself, a record on there addressed Lekki Toge Massacre, they're going to look at Wizkid's lyrics and say, do you understand? They are going to print out lyrics and say, okay, let's look at this. Okay, let's look at this. Well, I mean, songwriting on this album is much better than any Wizkid album since Superstar. But when you look at it critically, like he's saying things, I can enjoy it because I can have different minds to judging things. But those guys are not going to judge it like that. They're not going to judge it like that. Like, so it comes down to that idea of rudimentary musicality. Now, a lot of it then comes, that's why I say it's perception biases. Those guys are set in their ways. They don't have the broad mind to be able to understand that pop album as well, or pop music, can also have rudimentary musicality. Do you understand what I mean? So it's so when people are going to then say, oh, why did Burna Boy want it? He made a pop album as well. Yes, he did. But have you read the lyrics to the album? Have you listened to the sounds on Burna Boy? Like when Burna Boy went back with Twice As Tall, did you see the detail in the music? Like a record like Monsters You Made. Like the moment those guys hear a record like Monsters You Made, their perception bias, bro. The moment they hear a record like Bank on It, like the choirs, the sonics, bro, they are going to tilt toward, like they gave Burna Boy a spot to perform at the Grammys. It's not, bro. Like the opening record, bro, you are going to hear that all these things count. And then at the end of Way Too Big, you can hear the mic guitars. It's very strategically done. So when they listen to Wizkid's album, fantastic album, but a lot of people, random people, a lot of listeners are going to say, okay, it's also good music. But members of the academy, they're going to look at a combination of things that look at the rudimentary musicality, and they're going to say, look guys, there's substance here, there's not enough substance here. The one thing that I really criticized, you can read my review of Made in Lagos, I gave it a 7.2/10. One thing that I really criticized on it was songwriting. The production is good. right? But one thing I really criticize on the songwriting, sometimes Wizkid was saying things, right? A lot of people, like a lot of haters are going to say he wasn't saying anything. He was saying things, but the way things he was saying, and the fact that sometimes he'll be talking about life and then we'll go back to babe. You understand what I mean? When he's talking about that, then go back to sex. Like he was a little muddled up. It wasn't as great, but it was better than a lot of the songwriting he's done. So when those guys look at the summation of those things, they're going to tilt towards Arrange After and Angelique Kidjo. It's a no-brainer.
All right. So why do you think records with better arrangements or incredible arrangements are better than pop records?
Because a lot of people look at effort and they look at the mastery of the person that makes the music. You understand? Like for example, to perform, again, I'm going to go back to Hans Zimmer because if I go to like Conrad von Goltz or someone, people that make, or Hilary Hahn that make classical music, a lot of people might not know them, but a lot of people will look at Hans Zimmer because he's a contemporary classical music artist, right? Who composes for movies. I really watched Hans Zimmer in Prague, it's on YouTube. To perform, like you can see there, about 50, 60 people were performing the song because they had to get it right. I listened to something where Hans Zimmer needed a particular sound for that thing, right? He didn't get it. He had to buy a broken guitar for $25, like so that he was going to get this exact sound that he wanted. So a lot of people who are musicologists and music heads are going to look at the effort that goes into that type of music and how eclectic it sounds. Like the human mind it's not because it's abstract. The human mind understands when something is special. Now, it's perception bias, but when you come to pop records, most of them are performed. You put something on Fruity Loops, someone comes into the studio, one take, they're done. They don't even have to say anything that matters. So when it really comes to, that's why a lot of people are going to tell you that trap albums, no, come on, man. Trap albums are not going to, bro. Trap albums are not as good as Nas. Nas are telling you about cryptocurrencies and shit. So that's the attitude. Now, it's wrong in the sense that we need to judge these things independently of each other, right? And then meet them at the top by trying to understand, like I said the other time, what they set out to achieve, what both of them set out to achieve. That's the only way you can judge them. You can't judge them against each other. It will not be fair because there's an audience for Techno's Mufasa as well. There's an audience for Conrad von Goltz. As a matter of fact, the audience for Techno's Mufasa is way bigger than anything that Hans Zimmer could have. Even though it makes movies that have made billions. But in terms of like the music itself, it's probably not going to sell as much as pop records or trap music. Right? So it goes back again to the attitude of the Grammys. Like over the last 2 years, bro, over the past 2 years, you can see the attitude, you can see the change in the things that they're doing. Burna Boy, for example, won. I was surprised when Burna Boy won as well. But I didn't think Burna Boy. Do you know why? You know why I didn't think Burna Boy was going to win? Like when I was talking about perception bias. Perception bias then informs like familiarity, and then familiarity then becomes favoritism.
How is that?
The case is very simple. Once there's perception bias to what they like, in terms of those types of music, there's a familiarity to it. Okay, we like this guy. It brings familiarity. So the subsequent time that person is coming, they're likely to favor that person. That's it. Look at Tyler, the Creator. Everybody knew Tyler, the Creator was going to, if it wasn't going to be Kanye, I knew it was going to be Tyler, the Creator. I tweeted about it. Kendrick Lamar's next album is going to win Best Rap Album. There's nothing anybody can do about it. There's nothing anybody can do about it. If you like, knock your head on top of the ground. He's going to win it. Burna Boy's next album is going to be nominated. I don't know if it's going to win. It's going to depend on the type of the other people that is nominated in the same category with. But it's going to be nominated. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Make your peace with it now. It's the attitude. So perception bias, familiarity, favoritism. Angelique Kidjo has, this is her 4th Grammy, I'm not mistaken, or 5th, 4th or 5th. There's a reason why Made Kuti was nominated. Made Kuti wasn't nominated because it was Made Kuti or because his album was great. It was nominated because it's a Kuti, and his father released a double album that had his album in it. That's why it was nominated. He's part of the movement now, by the way. It's not going to be his last Grammy nomination. That's how it works. So when it comes to it, right, the attitude of the Grammys again, I'm going to go back to how it's changed. Look at the category for Best Rap Album this year. Look at the category for Best Rap Album last year. Look at who won last year. Nas won last year, bro. Nas has never won a Best Rap Album Grammy. Sometimes they even don't nominate his albums. Look at the person that won Best Album this year. John Baptiste. We thought this girl, Olivia Rodrigo, was going to sweep the Big Four. We thought so. I thought so. But they went for someone that had the music. Olivia Rodrigo is also rudimentary musicality. But when you look at the music that she makes, when you look at the music job artists make, you are going to, again, musicologists and critics are going to tilt towards that more. Because it sounds original, it's eclectic, it's all that. That's it.
So following the results of the Grammys, there were rants and and all things all over here and there. Jada P went on a rant. What are your thoughts on the rant?
It was a very emotional moment. It was. Someone was telling me that she tweeted before that. I didn't even know that she tweeted that she sounded bullish and confident. You are confident about the Grammys when you made the pop album. Are you serious? I mean, they can favor you, but you can't be too confident about the Grammys. It just shows you that it shows you that a lot of people in the Nigerian artist camps. It shows you how they think. It shows how Nigerian artists think. It shows that a lot of people. So it shows you that a lot of them don't even understand the realities. If someone here can tell you that it's unlikely that this guy is going to win an album, and you are bullish about the album because you thought it was more successful, are you serious? Let's go back to this. It was a very emotional moment in the sense that a lot of creatives look at the effort they put behind things. They look at the effort, they look at the strategy, the sleepless nights, the success that they found, the sentiments and the happiness they felt when they found the success, and the happiness they felt when they saw the nominations. So a lot of them can't process, like artists are narcissists, and so are people around them. They can't seem to process how their effort, these people didn't see their effort as well. They only saw one person's effort. That's how they process things. You see how all the things she listed? She listed blah, 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 something achievements. The best thing about those categories, it doesn't have anything to, it's there. No chart success or commercial success. It has very little to do with those things. Very little. It's sad, but it has very little to do with those things. This is not the MTV Music Awards. This is not a VMA. This is not America. This is not Billboard Awards, bro. This is Grammy. These are elitist musicologists who are trained, some of them are classically trained people. Some of them have written books on music. There's a guy that I heard his name. I read his book recently. He wrote a book on music. That's just one person. Did these people even understand how these people vote for Grammys? Like they are like over 6,000 members. Before, when the thing was about commercial success, between 2005 and 2020, when it was about commercial success, it was because it was a primarily white male-dominated audience. So they don't know the rudiments of these categories. So they just choose whatever is popping. But now, my brother, is based in categories. So a first set of members of the academy will nominate things. They will go back. When they create their own list, then another inner caucus will then create another list, make it shorter. Then a smaller caucus will then make it into where a lot of the label execs and the people that have influence, where they are. That's when they create the winners and the top 5 that you see. A lot of them are they are elitist musicologists. They are experienced people. So they don't think about your commercial success and all these things. That's why for a long time, a lot of people couldn't process why 50 Cent kept losing to Kanye West. But now, maybe a lot of people will understand it. So when it comes to this thing, I had second-hand embarrassment with that tweet. I had second-hand embarrassment because I expected better from someone who is a seasoned manager. I expected better from someone who represents possibly the biggest African artist right now. I expected better from someone who saw the chaos that losing that category cost, and then you went ahead and stoked the fire. It was disgraceful. I was disappointed. What anybody should have done in that situation, especially when you saw the way your stance were attacking people. That was irresponsible, grossly irresponsible. It wouldn't have it wouldn't have done any harm to you. Come out and say, congratulations. What Wizkid did later in the day, they should have done it way earlier when she was tweeting that rubbish. They should have done it at the time. Do you know Angelique Kidjo had to lock her comment sections, bro? Because animals were going at her. Is it that fault that she won? And then it came out the next, bro, this wasn't even like the night, though. The next day. This was Tuesday. And she tweeted it. I'm not saying don't air your grievances. I'm not saying the Grammys are perfect. They are not. No award is. Just like no list is perfect. A lot of it are based on opinion and, like I've said, perception bias, familiarity, and favoritism. But there are better ways to air your grievances. That's one. Number two, play the long game and see the big picture. An African won the fucking category. Are you serious? Fam, do you know what the global music category is? Grammy is an American institution. A lot of UK artists get nominated in major categories, like UK artists because it's the UK. Some other people who are not from the UK, let's say like 3 or 4 countries, dominate like the big 4 categories, right? I mean, all the major categories aside the global music award. So there are over 200 countries in the world. So that means over 190 countries are vying for 5 slots. Do you understand? Over 190 countries are vying for 5 slots. 5. So it means anybody that even remotely makes it to that thing, aside from perception bias, familiarity, your music must be excellent. It's already a win for you. It's already a win. Now the fact that 3 Africans were nominated in the album category, 3 Africans, you still couldn't see beyond your bias and your pain. So, okay, there's a big picture here. There's a big picture here. And let's go ahead and congratulate this African, and we can fight the bigger fight later. Okay, let's get, what do we do? Let's get more Africans in the academy. Let's make sure that there's an African in the inner circle. I mean, it might be unfair for me to be asking that of her, but it was better than whatever she tweeted. Because it made people even, made their fans even more aggressive. That was irresponsible. I asked second-hand embarrassment, and that's the truth.
All right. Do you think Wizkid would have been nominated if not for the success of Essence?
No. I don't. It wouldn't have happened. Like I said, I've discussed like idea of rementary musicality, and you can even see that a lot of people at RCA, they knew that was the case, because the way they pushed the agenda, the timing of the releases, the timing of the deluxe album, the album that they submitted, the album that was nominated, was the one that had the remix with Justin Bieber. So no, it wouldn't have happened. Now you can come out and say, oh blah blah, my guy, I know more than you. Shut the fuck up, I'm speaking facts. It wouldn't have.
But do you think Wizkid lost because his album was less African than Kidjo?
Man, I like this question. I saw a guy tweet something on the night that Wizkid's album shouldn't have been nominated in that category because Angelique Kidjo's album was more African, and because of global music, that it has to sound a certain way, and Wizkid's album doesn't sound that way. That argument was a fantastic argument. I think I even told you guys, fantastic argument. It was so smart. But the fact that Angelique Kidjo's album is more African than Wizkid's album doesn't mean Wizkid's album is not African or global at all. Does that make sense? Like, if you hear Made in Lagos, even though there are genre-bending records on the album like True Love, Peace on Me, Smile, that are R&B records, and even though the album could have easily passed for R&B because of the rhythm, the things that were talking about, the topics and the themes, the moment you hear Made in Lagos, if a stranger were to hear Made in Lagos, you are not going to think it's anything but African because of the drums and the percussions. Caribbean music doesn't sound like that. American music doesn't sound like that. European music doesn't sound like that. Asian music doesn't sound like that. Bro, oh yeah, get down. Bro, look at the drums, look at the percussion. Even Reckless, even though like the A&R on the album was so fantastic that they warped like locations, the appeal for different locations into certain records. Like you hear certain records and like Blessed, for example. African elements were in there, Caribbean elements were in there, European elements were in there. It was so, like the A&R did so perfectly. But at the root of it, there is no way you are going to hear Made in Lagos and not think it's African. So that means there's a reason why those guys also submitted for global music category. Because they knew that number one, they had a better chance of winning there. And number two, there's no way to hear Made in Lagos and not think it's a global album. Now here's the problem with that argument. If you are nominated, the only other category that Made in Lagos would have been nominated for was progressive R&B. Now you are saying it's not more African than it's less African than Angelique Kidjo's album. I don't agree, but even if it is, you are going to, if you nominate it in the progressive R&B category, the difference between Made in Lagos and the other albums in that category will be far greater than the difference between Angelique Kidjo's album and Made in Lagos. Do you know the album that won that category? Lucky Days album. Bro, the idea of R&B, if they still have perception bias in terms of like global, the perception bias in the R&B category would have been wild. I mean, we'll get there eventually when these people understand that R&B can be on different sounds and it can be on African music as well. But for now, it's really not passed in that category. Now, someone was even saying that, oh, something, that it's about, if it was about being indigenously African, Legacy Plus would have won. It's not about that. Legacy Plus is way more indigenously African than both albums combined. It's Afrobeat that was created by an African in Africa. It doesn't get more African than that. So, bro, it had nothing to do with it. It's about perception bias. It's about the idea of rudimentary musicality, perception bias, familiarity, and favoritism. It's that simple. And a lot of people are even saying that, well, Made in Lagos might have had a better chance in. Bro, let's just leave it. As at this moment, the category where it had the best chance was the global music category. Personally, I felt it would have been in progressive R&B. But when I saw it, factually, Made in Lagos is way more African. Like in terms of like perception bias again. Perception bias, it's way more African than any other thing. So let's just leave it like that.
All right. So do you think we should tailor our music to their taste or should remain African?
That answer is multifaceted. Number one, going forward, we are going to see a lot of African artists. Already here, we are not just Afrobeats, right? So we have a lot of people doing R&B, alternative jazz, blah, 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 every other way, right? People doing trap, drill, all these things. So going forward, a lot more sounds that are not Afrobeats are going to be exported out of Africa. Now, when it comes to making music for the Grammys, it's a different conversation entirely. At least for the next 2 years, people are going to still be people are going to have to make music for that particular idea of winning the Grammys. Because the reason is simple. It's not a Nigerian award. It's not a Nigerian award. The idea of their musicality is what you are going to aspire to, either you like it or not. Now they might adapt in the future as things get better. But for now, it doesn't look like that's going to change. And even when they adapt, someone like, you are going to look at someone like Brian Moore and say, bro, regardless of the adaptation that they adapt to pop music, if a Brian Moore album, and if the criteria remains that it has nothing to do with chart success and commercial success, if a Brian Moore album meets any other person's album in the Grammy category, it's likely that a Brian Moore album is going to beat it. Because you can literally see the idea that these people are going to steal toward this excellent musicality over any other thing. It's just what it is. Now, about the idea of tailoring our music to their markets, you can't not do that. Do you know why? Because the money doesn't come from here. It's about the money. And these people are signed to foreign labels and foreign music companies. Whatever they tell you to do, you are probably going to do it 40% of the time. They tell you to feature foreign artists, you better do it. Even streaming royalty for Nigerian artists, more than 90% doesn't come from here. How many people we have premium subscribers on premium streaming platforms? Less than 500,000 people in total in the country of 200 million people. I expect them not to tailor their music to the foreign countries. Are you okay? Are you okay? Labels know that the money doesn't come from here. They know that the money doesn't come from here. So when push comes to shove, my brother, it's not about you. Get out of your feelings.
All right. Do you think Wizkid should focus on his style, his music, or should he try?
It depends on what Wizkid wants, bro. It depends on what Wizkid wants. If Wizkid wants to win the Grammys, he has to adapt the music. He has to rethink the idea of the music and the approach. Like Burna Boy didn't win the first time, even though African Giant is a better album than Twice as Tall. I think everybody is going to agree with that. Like everybody's going to agree with that. Don't you think so? What do you think?
Oh my goodness. All right.
What do you think? Which one do you think is better?
I mean, I think if he wants the Grammy, he needs to It is to,
Exactly. So he needs to adapt. He needs to rethink the idea.
What about the Angelique Kidjo move that Burna made? Do you think Wizkid also needs that?
It doesn't have to be Angelique Kidjo. Angelique Kidjo wasn't on Twice Store, but it has to be something. Lady Smith, Blank Mambazo, something. He has to rethink. He has to rethink along those lines. Yes.
But what do you think Wizkid can do to get in their good books?
Expand the range of the music. It's left to see whether he wants to do that, or if he can do that. Do you understand what I mean? Like, when it comes to it, it's not about the quality of the music. It's about how the music sounds. Like, if you are getting nominated for the Grammys, it means your music is excellent in some way. It means it has some appeal and some cultural impact some way, right? So if your music Wizkid just has to rethink the strategy of the music. What he needs to do is, number one, expand the music, bring more instruments in, make the music more expansive, load it with more rudimentary musicality, better songwriting, definitely. Much better songwriting. He doesn't even have to talk about social politics. It doesn't. Like, for example, Burna's year, 5 people were nominated in that category. One of the albums was about Bebe Gilberto, who was going through a divorce. Who was going through loss. I think both her parents died, and the album was about that. This lady, Anushka Shankar, she was going through a divorce. The music was about that. Tinarim, when the music was about like civil war in their country. They're from Sudan, if I'm not wrong. And the music is about the idea of terrorism in the country, they couldn't go home. That was the music was about. So it doesn't have to be that. It just has to find a theme and properly articulate it in terms of with better songwriting, great themes and great topics. That's all. So if you're going to talk about love and sex, for example, if you're going to talk about the relationship between a man and a woman, let the record be focused, wrap itself around like loss. If it's more love, less ego that you are doing next, then create incredible scenarios around the music. So number one, maybe you are creating a record around like beef. How you and your guys, someone in your class, you guys maybe something like maybe 2 later become 3, something like that. Maybe another record is then going to be about your realization about how beef is not good, and then maybe another track is going to be about how one love unites everybody. It can be pop sound, it can be pop facing music, but you can still find a way to adapt it. That's all.
All right. So you think Wizkid has chances of winning more Grammys?
Oh yeah, I think he's going to win more Grammys. So a Grammy baby is someone that the perception bias, familiarity with the mentioned musicality, all these things. But being a Grammy baby doesn't mean you're not going to win Grammys. You probably will win Grammys, but it just might not be from your own music. And even if you win from your own music, it's definitely not going to be as regular as the Grammy babies are winning. That's all. Like, these guys have a habit. J. Cole has still not won a Grammy by himself. The only Grammy J. Cole has won was a lot. 21 Savage. Like, I remember tweeting it last year that it's like Song of the Year category, Olivia Rodrigo and Silk Sonic. Silk Sonic won because you can, if you know music, if you study this thing for a number of years, you understand how they think. Like, Nas didn't win until 2020, and it's probably not going to win again. Best rap album. Like, it's what it is. 50 Cent never won a Grammy by himself. The only Grammy that I remember 50 Cent winning was for Crack the Bottle by Eminem. So, bro, that's what it is. He's going to win Grammys, and this is definitely not going to be his last nomination. But the wins in terms of solo acts might not be as regular as maybe a Burna Boy. But you never know. You just never know.
So you've spoken about Grammys and the likes pigeonholing African music a couple of times.
Yeah.
What do you think about we as a people accepting the edits more?
Man, I saw a lot of tweets like that. I even saw it from a lot of hypocritical angles. A lot of people that have bashed the edits for a long time. Oh, let's focus on the edits. Oh, really? You want to focus on the edits now? Wow, that's so sexy. Who knew? Let me tell you something about that. I've been the biggest. You can look at the history of this show. I've been the biggest agent for creating things that are rudimentarily indigenously African. That because this Afrobeat movement, the truth is, it's good now, but the money that's coming in, the acclaim that we're getting, America has shown a history of feeding off countries and genres, and then after a while they move on. 5 to 10 years they move on. It doesn't mean that they're not going to care about it anymore. There's now going to be an established bridge of artists crossing over. But in terms of like the focus on these countries, is probably not going to be it's not going to be the same forever. And that means that we need to use this opportunity to create our own. So the head is definitely, we need to have like an African award. I like the head is this direction they're headed. They're headed towards an African direction, so it makes sense for all of us. But the role of America as a global big brother is not going to change. That's the truth. And that means as a cultural hub, America is going to be the most desirable country in the world. And that's still going to inform the rest of the world for years to come. Asia is strong with K-pop, but can you compare the global impact of K-pop to the global impact of our hip-hop and R&B? Bro, on TikTok last year, hip-hop and R&B dominated with over 60% of the market. Are you serious? And hip-hop and R&B significantly what? American, brother. I mean, over time, maybe K-pop can catch up, blah, blah, but they've been knocking on the door for 15 years. They've still not caught up. So that means Nigerian artists, a lot of them at the time, they will have conquered here, they would have won the headies, they would have won. So that naturally, human beings are built to look at the things that they don't have. So they are always going to be looking at the Grammys. They're always going to look at something that's like the Grammys, something that's bigger than the Grammys, maybe. It's narcissism. It's the idea of the fact that the human being is insatiable. Our desires are very insatiable, and that's never going to change. So you can't blame artists for going at the Grammys. For a while, I didn't understand that myself. I criticized them for focusing on the Grammys a little too much. But the truth is, bro, the human mind is trained to look at the next frontier, and that's not going to change. That's not going to change.
What are your thoughts on some people that are criticizing Angelique Kidjo?
I saw a very stupid tweet. I saw a very, very dumb, stupid tweet. The person said, man, Angelique Kidjo is the problem. She's the one that makes music about medieval something that makes these people think, what is this African? And I saw someone on my Instagram yesterday saying, yes, the person was agreeing with it. First of all, I'm not going to mention your name. The day I saw you, I'm going to tell you that you're very stupid and you're very ignorant. Bro. Angelique Kidjo is not going to make music for you because it suits your sentiments. Are you dumb? She's going to make music that appeals. It's like telling Bremo to go and be making pop music. How does that connect in your brain? That's one. Number two, Mother Nature is as pop as it could be. Mother Nature is not folk. Yes, on both Made in Lagos and even on both Made in Lagos and Mother Nature, the most European record on those albums are made on Mother Nature. And it's Mycelium. Have you heard Mycelium? So how is she making medieval music? Dignity, that was the lead single, was an Afro-pop record. The record that was nominated for the Grammy, Burna Boy, Afro-pop record. Record Mr. Easy, Afro-pop. So where is this thing coming from? Sampa the Great, Afro-pop record. So where is the medieval? So it shows you that these people don't even listen. See, these are the problems we have in this country and with this category. Nigerians are so ignorant and so bifolk and so that they think whatever is theirs as nominated, they think is the best. I mean, sometimes it is, but you also have to understand that it could go either way, because if you are nominated for the Grammys, your music must always be excellent. It can't be a fluke. And I assure you that these guys never listen to the albums before they start criticizing. Never. They didn't listen to all those albums once. They didn't even go for research purposes. They never did. They just want to focus on it's their bias. Because, and let me not lie to you, we were all there once. I remember when I was younger, I remember some records that I remember when on Facebook. Was it on Facebook? I can't remember. We made, do you remember Together We Made It? Linkin Park and Busta Rhymes. I was like, the Grammys will make this record, fuck the Grammys forever. For me looking back at that now, it's a very stupid opinion. Because that record was never going to make Grammys. Because it was never going to be. Why you look at all the other albums in that category? They're excellent albums as well. So you saying Angelique Kidjo is something and then going to her Instagram page to criticize her is very stupid. I can't process it. And the way Nigerian artists need to start thinking now, they need to start thinking of how to control their stance. See, this it's not an agenda, it's a movement that I'm going to start. They need to start thinking about it. Like, Someone is going to say, and it's not going to work. Then you are not doing enough. These people are toxic. They are animalistic. Wizkid didn't put one tweet out. One tweet. I'm not saying a tweet can change everything, but a tweet is going to start something. A tweet can mean you can do something. Go out and put a tweet out. You remember when Good Luck considered the election to Buhari? It changed a lot of things for this country. You remember how much it helped this country? Bro, I'm not saying it's going to eradicate everything, but long term, think about how you can change things. Think about seminars. Think about like creating rules for your stance. Like you remember when Americans were trying to get bullying out of the school system? Don't be a bully. Don't be a bully. Like this movement, it can change a lot of things because it goes into your mind as what is wrong and what is right. Create penalties for what is wrong and what is right on social media. People are going to say that, oh, artists shouldn't do this. They should because it's CSR. It's like saying Twitter should be responsible for bad language and rubbish content on their platform. It doesn't work like that. It might not be primary, but you develop to be part to have that responsibility. You must do it. Employ a community manager. That's going to create a strategy for you.
All right. So was Black Coffee's win the biggest win of the night?
Yeah, bro, it was. But it was the one that went under the radar the most. Black Coffee won. Black Coffee is an African producer who won in a non-global music category. He won in a primarily white-dominated category, white male-dominated category, which is best dance electronic music. It doesn't get bigger than that. Shout out to Black Coffee. Like when the album came out, I reviewed it and I was mesmerized. And I remember when I interviewed Joe Boy last year. So Joe Boy and I followed each other on Twitter. He was telling me that the reason why I went to play that album is because I tweeted about it. And I'm like, bro, the two of us were geeking out about the album because it was so great. It was such a great album, right? And I would be surprised. I would like to see a Joe Boy and Black Coffee collaboration. That would be fantastic. Because bro, like if you can literally see that again, rudimentary musicality. If you listen to the album, you're going to understand what I'm saying. And then it didn't sit on its own. As you can see the features that were in the album, you can see the way the album was pushed out. Like, shout out to Black Coffee, man. Shout out to Black Coffee. And it's been a long time coming. It's been working for this for years. It's been touring, like Black Coffee to sell out shows in foreign countries, like he will do tours. So this has been a long time coming. I'm really proud. Like for an African, it's amazing. So amazing. So amazing.
Cool. Great. If Made in Lagos had won, would it have made the featured artists and producers Grammy winners?
No, they would have just got a certificate. That's all. Yes, no. The certificates of recognition. If you didn't work on 60% of the album, you're probably not going to. The only person that would have gotten a gong would have been P2J, who produced like 60% of the album. So that's how it works. I mean, people like, oh my God, you're a Grammy winner. Yes, you are. But you got a certificate, not the gong. If you didn't get a gong, you're probably not as much of a Grammy winner as everybody else. Yes. But if you want to call you a Grammy winner, they can go ahead and do that because technically, you kind of did. Technically.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Would you call this loss a loss for Afrobeats?
This was the most thing that I saw on the night. No. It's not. Angelique Kidjo that won, what is she? I don't understand. How is it a loss for Afrobeats? It's not now. It's just a lot of people in their feelings. Oh my God, just shut up, man. Shut up. It's not a loss for Afrobeats. It's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. It's probably going to. It's definitely going to be a sacrificial lamb for the way these people also understand now. It's a needed loss sometimes. So it's not a loss for Afrobeats at all. If anything, it's to the benefit of Afrobeats. Long-term benefits of Afrobeats in terms of how our music is perceived, and also realizing what's important. So I don't understand how it's a loss for Afrobeats. Why? When 50 Cent won, when 50 Cent was the biggest rap artist in the world and he lost rap categories, was it a loss for hip hop? I beg.
All right, you think Wizkid is going to become a Grammy baby?
Changes his approach, man. And that's factual.